Hello and thank you for viewing our presentation. We are Team 7 and we did an analysis of the electric utility industry with a focus on our local SRP Salt River Project Company.
Power plants generate electricity using fossil fuels and coal for the most part. They then transfer that power to a transformer, which sends the electricity through multiple power lines and transformers to reach the consumer's home. This is all thanks to Nikola Tesla, much to the chagrin of Thomas Edison. With the large majority of power plants using fossil fuels and coal to create the power, they are facing more scrutiny over environmental issues facing the population. They need to start looking at renewable and sustainable forms of energy to produce electricity. The PESTEL analysis examines the macro environmental factors impacting electric utility companies. The political factors facing the electric utilities are government regulations. These can change based on the most recent election cycle. The economic component relates to the upkeep of current power grids. While these are antiquated systems, it's much cheaper to keep those systems going than the high switching costs that companies will face to change the creating and storing energy processes. While electricity is a must for individuals, the electric utility companies still face social and demographic forces. Wealthier communities are willing and able to pay higher fees to offset the switch from fossil fuels to more sustainable energy resources. However, communities with a lower socioeconomic makeup would have a difficult time paying the higher fees associated with going to a cleaner way to make energy. Grid modernization faces a few technological forces. The first is utility companies need to understand how electricity is being utilized. The electric utility companies need to form partnerships with electric and appliance manufacturers to create the ability to collect and analyze the usage of these devices. Secondly, SCADA control systems are used to control and monitor the infrastructure processes, but these systems are vulnerable to both cyber and physical threats. Both the security and packet control protocols need to be improved to alleviate this threat. The ecological factor shows that current power generation of electricity is responsible for 28% of the U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. Nuclear power generation is shown to be the safest method for consistent production, but due to misguided societal concerns, there's only been one nuclear power plant built in the last 20 years. Utility rates are set at a state level. The governing bodies not only control the rates, but they also control the distribution network of power. Legally, utility companies cannot get a rate increase without permission from the government. This can hinder the change from fossil fuel reliance to renewable energy resources due to the cost to build new facilities. Next, we will touch on the 5 forces analysis. There are steep costs to enter the market. This keeps new competitors out, showing the high barriers to entry. The bargaining powers of buyers is low. Consumers typically have no choice in who their electrical provider is. The primary suppliers of coal and natural gas to electric companies is a small percentage. This leads to a higher bargaining power for the suppliers and a lower bargaining power for utility companies. Electricity cannot be substituted, but the generation of that electricity can. Thanks to solar companies and Tesla wall batteries, the wealthier consumers can substitute where they get their electricity from, which will lower the power companies' profits. Industries that complement electric utility companies are construction and real estate. Rivalry amongst providers is non-existent due to regional monopolies. Energy utility companies need to embrace the opportunity to establish sustainable energy options while updating their infrastructure. The first movers will have advantage of cornering the market and expanding their consumer base.
Salt River Project, or SRP, is a community-based, non-profit utility company which was initially designed to supply water for irrigation. But as the water development advanced, the production and delivery of hydroelectric power emerged as another key component. Today, SRP is one of the largest utility companies in Arizona and has established itself as one of the default providers of electricity and water in Arizona. SRP's business model canvas shows that SRP is well positioned in terms of resources and revenues. SRP is an integrated utility company. It generates as well as transmits and distributes electricity to the customers. SRP uses a variety of fuel sources like coal, natural gas, geothermal, hydroelectric, and solar to generate electricity. Major customer segments include water and electricity for residential and business. Not many people know this, but SRP also operates one of the largest fiber optic networks in Arizona that connects most of the major data centers within the Phoenix metropolitan area. Moving on to SWOT analysis. SRP is well positioned with a number of strengths as well as opportunities within the industry, but the company should also be wary of its potential weaknesses and threats. In the strengths section, SRP is one of the largest publicly owned power utility companies in the United States that allows SRP to lobby for change and push initiatives through legislative means. Another strength is its long-standing sustainable energy initiative. Some of the notable recent additions include battery system from Tesla and power purchases from the wind power project. Some of the weaknesses which can hamper the growth of SRP are related to its supply chain and business structure. SRP still operates as a traditional company where projects are managed in a non-agile manner. And SRP relies on diverse suppliers, including some small firm, minority suppliers, and contractors. Poor business practices at the supplier level can cause inefficiencies for SRP. In the opportunities section, SRP can take more initiatives to promote green technologies for power and wastewater management to become a sustainable utility company. SRP can also use emerging technologies and analytics to optimize grid performance and provide an efficient and more reliable service to its customers. Threats exist for every company, and specific threats for SRP are related to physical and cybersecurity. SCADA systems play an important role in the transmission and distribution of electricity for utility companies, but SCADA systems are vulnerable to numerous threats which exploit both physical and cyber vulnerabilities.
Security is a major concern for the electric utility industry. Power companies are targeted by malicious hackers or adversaries such as China and Russia. Electricity is now a critical resource to our culture that many citizens, businesses, and even our military rely on. A disruption of power affects computer systems, technology devices, lighting, and even store purchases as our society becomes more absorbed into digital ecosystems. Cutting power off would cause chaos within cities and disrupt military equipment until power is restored. This is what makes companies such as SRP such a high-value target for organized criminals and nation-states. Our first concern regarding security begins with physical security. Substations and critical components of power infrastructure is easily accessible to physical harm or damage, which can cause a disruption in power. A particular case in 2013 exposed this when assailants fired high-caliber rounds at the transformers, which disrupted power and caused $15 million in damage in less than 20 minutes. With mapping technologies such as Google Maps and drones, it makes reconnaissance easy and allows identification of key areas which could shut down power to major cities. The physical security of infrastructure is critical as snipers can take out power from long distances with a higher success rate than cybersecurity attacks. Our solution is to have SRP perform a criticality assessment of components, strengthen access barriers, and shield critical components with armor plating. Along with this, it is crucial to install surveillance security systems and monitoring systems to protect the infrastructure. Next to physical security, SRP needs to focus on cybersecurity as systems placed on a network immediately places them at risk for attack. SCADA systems are used by utility companies to control power distribution and remotely monitor the power grid. SCADA systems have improved the efficiency of power companies' ability to maintain the grid, but have been found to possess vulnerabilities which hackers can use to obtain control of these systems. We have seen the damage that can be caused by hackers in cases such as the Stuxnet incident on Iran's nuclear facility. This worm was used to infect Iran's nuclear plant network and caused centrifuges to spin at extremely fast rates which damaged the equipment, while the sensors and monitors made it seem that the equipment was functioning normally. As you can see, organized criminals, nation-states, and insiders are the top risks to causing damage within the electric utility industry. Our major focus with SRP is to strengthen cybersecurity by eliminating vulnerabilities within SCADA systems and other systems within SRP. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST framework, will be implemented to do a better job with identification, protection, detection, response, and recovery around cybersecurity incidents. Cybersecurity analytics will be implemented in order to improve monitoring of user behavior and detect anomalies, which is expected to decrease insider threats and compromised accounts. Overall, strengthened physical security and cybersecurity is expected to decrease downtime, data risks, and help to support business initiatives to improve sustainability.
Trends in scientific research, public policy discussion, and social sentiment will grant more favor to renewable energy sources in the coming years. SRP needs to be prepared to make significant changes to their business model if they wish to maintain revenue streams through this transition. While renewable energy has been a strategic priority for SRP, the megawatts generated from renewable sources in 2018 still fell far behind what their competitor APS was able to achieve in 2015. We propose that rather than remain focused on generating power, SRP should position itself as a front-runner in maintaining and monitoring microgrids. There is a growing market for self-generating consumers. However, SRP has been known to assess several monthly fees to customers who install solar paneling to their homes. This has created a relationship between SRP and its constituents that does not promote the goal of increasing sustainable energy efforts. It simply is not cost effective for consumers to make this change while SRP is their provider. Rather than being made redundant by people gravitating towards solar panels and other renewable energy options, SRP can emphasize coordinated services that promote this movement while still incorporating itself as an invaluable component of the experience. SRP can facilitate peer-to-peer energy sharing based on metering and analytics to ensure equitable distribution of power generated through the consumer's renewable energy efforts. This would prevent brownouts and blackouts for the users within this community. Additionally, working with SRP would provide the added insurance of traditional grid backup in the event that the power generated is insufficient to meet spikes in demand. But along with reevaluation of its business strategy, significant grid modernization efforts are needed to achieve these goals.
At the heart of both security and sustainability for the electric utility industry is a more modern power grid. Building a smarter, more reliable, and more efficient power grid is not only an important step towards a better future, but it is also a necessity for providing the power required for our even more high-tech future. Smart grid technologies involve more than simply sourcing sustainable power, but also utilize Internet of Things, big data, and analytics to provide enhanced grid monitoring and proactive maintenance ability for critical grid components. Additionally, smart grid technologies will allow the power company to monitor usage more accurately and respond to high usage events autonomously. Quicker reactions to changing usages or knowledge of shifting trends will allow SRP to reduce waste and improve reliability. Another aspect that smart grids bring to the table for SRP is the ability for SRP to monitor usage beyond the meter, utilizing IoT devices and direct integrations through partnerships with providers of smart home devices. Through these types of corporate partnerships, SRP can coordinate with and alert customers about devices functioning out of normal range or utilizing higher than average electricity. Through these partnerships, SRP could possibly even gain some level of control over the devices inside the customer's home. This could allow SRP to adjust and optimize power utilizations during peak periods, which could in turn reduce overall power consumption for the grid.